Let me ask you this question, because I know there's probably plenty of people that are thinking about this. It has to do with the jury system. So I had a podcast with Judge Ravi Sandel last week, and we talked a little bit about the logistical issues we have calling juries in Houston right now. And it's not just Houston, it's everywhere that's been affected by this. And, I was telling Judge Sandel, I had jury duty in Houston roughly 6 months ago, and you got to go to the tunnels, and there's thousands of people all packed in together. And then
Good for you for going.
Yeah, then you gotta get in the elevators, and right now there can only be 2 people in the elevators and things of that nature. So I was asking, obviously there's a lot of issues right now with getting juries together, and I don't see us being able to do that anytime in the near future. What would you think about a trial by jury via video conferencing or Zoom? Like what would upsides, downsides, potential pitfalls, potential good parts of that? What would your thoughts be on jury trials by video conference?
One concern would be the jurors not really paying attention. I mean, it's hard enough to get them interested in a trial when they're there in person. I think it may be tougher to do it via Zoom. Jury selection would be a real challenge, right? Just the logistical issue of having that many people on a screen. I mean, I guess it's possible to do it that way. But once they're in the box, they're the fact finder, no different than Judge Miller was, and it's not like they get a chance to ask questions. The things I'd worry about are, like you said, not being able to necessarily gauge their reactions as well as you might, and maybe the risk of losing them some if they're remote. I mean, there's something to them being captive and having to be there in person to listen. I would just say, again, I mean, my preference and belief is that, being in court and being in front of the jury is the best way to try a case. But, I mean, I'm sure that's what people used to say about candlelights and abacus. It may be that, but I certainly do think that going forward, judges across the country, maybe starting with some of the federal courts, are going to see this as a viable alternative to having hearings. I mean, the idea of getting on a plane and flying to Virginia for a status conference, to me, being in Texas, doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. I mean, maybe the judges are going to be more open to that, and that would be a great thing, especially for, smaller firms like mine. But
agree 100%.
But this is coming. I mean, this technology is here. It's coming. It's going to change the way we do a lot of things. I hope it doesn't ultimately replace the way we try the case to a jury, but I would never swear that it won't.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more about that. And I can actually see it being easier in federal court to do remote trials, jury trials, because, federal courts, first of all, they only have 6 jurors, generally speaking, plus voir dire is very, very limited. So you kind of don't have that problem quite as much. But, this is an important issue. People, I think, even as lawyers, take for granted our right to a trial by jury. And that is that is, if not one of the most fundamental rights that the founding fathers wrote in the Constitution, I mean, clearly one of the most important, written in the 7th Amendment. Right. And it's in jeopardy right now. I mean, it truly is in jeopardy.
It is. And I think it has been for a long time. I think 7th Amendment rights to a jury trial have been, under siege for years, whether it's, arbitration clauses or, ADR provisions, appraisal provisions in my business. I mean, you're exactly right. The founding fathers had very much in mind a process of resolving civil disputes that involved our peers. And, I very much caution against anything that strips that away.
Yeah, and I think we nowadays, with the pandemic, on top of all the efforts that we had in the past to weaken the jury system, we got to be really cautious as lawyers and judges about, we got to fight back against any attempts to weaken the jury system during the pandemic. And there are certainly interest groups, and we won't name who they are, but there are interest groups who absolutely will take advantage of this opportunity to try to weaken the jury system even further. So,
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, you see the political maneuvering already, certainly at the federal level, where you know, tort reform agendas are being pushed because now is a good time to say, hey, we got to really immunize this industry or that industry, and we can't, you know, we can't allow our heroes or our drug makers or that, you know, can't allow anybody to ever sue them, and we got to be very careful about, you know, giving away our rights, you know, in a moment of crisis. I mean, I was told long ago by a lawyer that I really like and admire and trust a lot. He said, you know, I never make important decisions when I'm angry or when there's, you know, a crisis going on at the firm, or
yeah,
if there's some, so I always wait until it passes.
yeah,
And you know, we're clearly in crisis right now. We're clearly in react mode, and this is not the time to eliminate constitutional rights.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. You want to talk about a complete and total overreaction? I mean,
yeah,
that's. But there are legitimately groups that will do exactly that. They'll try to use this crisis as an opportunity to advance their own personal interest, and so we
that's
just
right.
got to be real cognizant of that.